The dumbbell snatch, the classic CrossFit movement. Check out these 5 tips to help you improve your speed and efficiency. The first tip for dumbbell snatches is maybe something that you're not actually expecting, but it's how to protect your thumbs. Those of you who've done high rep dumbbell snatches will know that you can start to blister and tear the skin in a very unusual place. So use protection, and we're going to show you how. Basically what starts to happen, especially when you're doing the alternating dumbbell snatch, is because of the weights and where the dumbbell sits, it'll ride on the thumb, and that creates friction and eventually tears the skin. But just simply putting some tape over the thumbs can help do that. So if you're looking to practice, tape up those thumbs, you'll thank me later. When doing the dumbbell snatch from the floor, be that double or single, actually one of the things we want to focus on is having a higher hip placement. So there's really 2 options we can do. We can go for a hip hinge pattern, or we can go for a squat pattern. And what we're going to recommend is the hip hinge. It allows you to move quicker and more efficiently. So we're just going to demonstrate those 2 movements. First, Thiago's going to hit 3 reps with a squat pattern, and then 3 reps with a hip hinge pattern. So this is the squat pattern. As you can see, the body travels quite far up and down, and then we go to more of a hip hinge pattern for the next 3. And as you can see, we don't have as much flexion in the knees, and we really engage the posterior chain and the low back doing that. That's one thing we're just going to say. We want to try and build up the capacity of this hip hinge pattern rather than having to go to a squat pattern for our dumbbell snatches. With the double dumbbell snatch, this can be challenging for people for a few reasons. The first is you have to take a bit of a wider stance to fit both the dumbbells between the legs. And secondly, there's no compensation in movement. When we do with just one hand, we can allow that rotation to come in. When we do it with double dumbbell, we start taking that rotation away. So the one thing we're going to recommend here is that you just build up that capacity. As you can see, we've also got a pair of 10s for some demonstration we're going to do later. But really, it's important that you're accustomed to going into a wide stance position and also reaching down this low. Yeah. The dumbbells are closer to the ground than a barbell with plates, and therefore even if you're used to a high rep deadlifts, because these are slightly lower, it can cause like some soreness in the back. Therefore, just make sure you build up over time. When doing alternating dumbbell snatches, one of the biggest troubles people have, especially at the start, is having the confidence to transition in the air. So rather than leaving the dumbbell in the floor, what becomes more efficient is we transfer halfway through the movement and go through. So Thiago's just going to show the 2 versions. First is transferring on the floor, the second is transferring in the air. So this is what we would call the easier or less complicated version, but the more efficient way to do this and the quicker way to do this is to transfer in the air. Okay. The secret to this is to be confident. You've just got to have faith that when you let the dumbbell go from one hand, you're going to catch it in the other hand. Obviously the progression is simple, start at a lighter weight and build up, but the one thing I'd like athletes to do here is just be confident in your ability. Know that you're going to be able to catch it rather than being scared and having to place it on the floor. Obviously start lighter, build that capacity, but just have confidence that you're going to catch the dumbbell. If you don't have that confidence, one thing you can also do at the start is to do a change where we take it from the shoulder. So what Thiago's going to do now, rather than transitioning from above the head, we do almost a clean and jerk where we transition on the shoulder, take to the other hand. So he's just going to demonstrate a few reps of that now. So again, to help build that confidence, obviously we don't have to transition from as high up, so it can help develop as you go through. One other thing that's important just to cover is how you hold the dumbbell. One at the back, one at the front, and one in the middle. And what you'll notice is that the one in the back becomes the harder of the 3 variants. When you're slightly ahead, it can become advantageous. It just shortens the position of the grip, but also because the grip is small, in the middle also works. So we're just going to show those 3 variations now. So the first one's with the hand at the back of the dumbbell, just go all the way through the snatch. And what you'll notice, the forward head comes down, and that makes it slightly more challenging. When it's in the front, that takes out that, and so you get good connection, although it's just not as comfortable for the hand position. And finally, in the middle, if we get good placement, the dumbbell comes on even. So again, these are only minor things. The one thing I would say is try not to hold the hand towards the back of the dumbbell, because that's going to make your life slightly more challenging. One aspect that we haven't mentioned is we've talked about going from the floor, but we also have variations with the double and the single doing hang dumbbell snatches. These are a lot easier because of the range of motion, and we don't require as much hip hinge as well. So what we're going to show here, Tiago's just going to go through 4 reps of alternating dumbbell snatch from the hang. He's going to be able to stay much more upright and generate that motion. Nice. And so actually the aim here when we're going from the hang is to be able to stay as upright as possible. The more I go down, it's probably going to be dictated by how heavy the weight is. So at a lighter weight, I can stay more and more upright and just use a little bit of a hip swing. The heavier the weight goes, the more it's going to pull me down in order to generate that momentum. However, the goal should be from the hang, both in double and single, to stay as upright as possible to make the movement as efficient as possible. So remember, protect those thumbs, make sure your low back is accustomed to the movements. If you have any questions or comments, drop them below and we will be there to answer them.